Captain Mara Ellis stood on the bridge of the USS Hope's Light, watching the endless expanse of stars through the viewport. The year 2437 had brought humanity further into the cosmos than ever before, and the United Earth Council's flagship hospital vessel represented the best of their humanitarian spirit. Beyond Mars in the deep space frontiers near the Tranquility Rift, the Hope's Light carried its mission of mercy to those who needed it most. Status report, Lieutenant Hilar. Ellis called to her navigation officer, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. At 52, she bore the scars of the Mars Rebellion both physically and mentally, but those experiences had forged her into the leader the UEC needed for missions like this. All systems nominal, Captain. We're maintaining course toward the refugee settlement on Kepler Station. ETA 14 hours. The young officer's voice carried the crisp efficiency that Ellis had come to expect from her crew. Ellis nodded, her gray eyes reflecting the starlight. The Hope's Light was more than just a ship to her. It was a floating testament to humanity's commitment that no life would be left behind. The massive vessel stretched nearly 2 kilometers in length, its white hull adorned with the red cross of medical neutrality and the blue circle of the United Earth Council. Inside its corridors, some of the galaxy's finest medical professionals worked tirelessly to heal anyone who sought their aid, regardless of species or allegiance. Dr. Suresh Takeda approached from the medical bay, his dark features creased with concern. The xenobiologist had joined the crew 6 months ago, bringing with him a reputation for treating alien species with the same dedication he showed human patients. His pacifist beliefs sometimes clashed with the military protocols of the ship, but Ellis respected his unwavering commitment to preserving life. Captain, I've received word from Kepler Station. The situation is worse than we anticipated, Dr. Takeda said, his voice heavy with worry. The outbreak has spread to 3 more sectors. We'll need every medical pod we have. Ellis turned to face him fully. How many casualties are we looking at? Over 2,000 confirmed sick, with the number rising hourly. The local medical facilities are completely overwhelmed. Dr. Takeda paused, running a hand through his graying hair. Captain, I know our mission parameters, but we should consider requesting additional medical supplies from Earth. This could strain our resources beyond capacity. Before Ellis could respond, a new voice cut through their conversation. Commander Felix Zhao strode onto the bridge, his military bearing unmistakable, even in the casual blue uniform of the hospital ship's escort detail. The charismatic officer commanded the destroyer Athena, which accompanied the Hope's Light on what the UEC called show the flag duty, a visible reminder that Earth's humanitarian missions carried the protection of its military might. Captain Ellis, Dr. Takeda, Zhao said with a slight bow of his head. His sharp features and confident demeanor had made him popular among the younger officers, though Ellis sometimes worried about his eagerness for action. I've just received updated intelligence from our forward scouts. The area around Kepler Station has seen increased Auraxian Empire activity. Ellis frowned. The Auraxian Empire had maintained an uneasy peace with the UEC for the past decade, but tensions always simmered beneath the surface. Their militaristic culture often clashed with humanity's more diplomatic approach to interstellar relations. What kind of activity? She asked. Patrol ships mostly. Nothing overtly hostile, but they're definitely monitoring our approach. Zhao's hand instinctively moved to rest on his sidearm. I recommend we maintain full defensive protocols. Dr. Takeda shook his head. Commander, we're a hospital ship. Our very presence should be enough to ensure safe passage under interstellar law. Any aggressive posturing could be misinterpreted. With respect, Doctor, the law only matters if the other side chooses to honor it. Zhao replied, his voice carrying an edge of frustration. The Crimson Hand faction within the Auraxian Empire has shown little regard for traditional diplomatic niceties. Ellis held up a hand to forestall further argument. The Crimson Hand was indeed a militant faction within the Auraxian Empire that viewed humanity's expansion as a threat to their cultural purity. Led by the fanatical General Kale Arex, they had been responsible for several border incidents over the past year. "We maintain our current course and protocols," Ellis decided. "The Hope's Light flies under medical neutrality, and we won't deviate from that principle. Commander Zhao, keep the Athena at standard escort distance, but no aggressive maneuvers." "Understood, Captain." Zhao's tone suggested he wasn't entirely pleased with the decision, but he would follow orders. As the hours passed, the Hope's Light continued its steady progress toward Kepler Station. Ellis found herself drawn repeatedly to the viewport, studying the swirling colors of the Tranquility Rift in the distance. The cosmic phenomenon was beautiful, but dangerous, its gravitational anomalies capable of crushing even the sturdiest starship if approached carelessly. Lieutenant Nova Reyes, the ship's youngest pilot, reported for her shift with characteristic enthusiasm. At 26, she represented the new generation of Earth's spacefaring personnel, those who had grown up among the stars, rather than being born to terrestrial concerns. Her skill at navigating the complex gravitational fields around phenomena like the Tranquility Rift was legendary among the crew. "Captain, I'm picking up some unusual readings on long-range sensors," Reyes announced from her station. "Multiple contacts approaching from the Auraxian border zone." Ellis moved to stand behind her pilot station. "Configuration." "Looks like a patrol formation, ma'am. 3 heavy cruisers and several escort vessels." Reyes's fingers danced across her control panel. "They're not broadcasting any identification signals." Commander Zhao's voice crackled over the comm system from the Athena. "Hope's Light, we're seeing the same contacts. Recommend we alter course to avoid potential confrontation." Ellis considered the options. Changing course would delay their arrival at Kepler Station by at least 6 hours' time that could cost lives among the sick and wounded refugees. But engaging with an unknown Auraxian force could pose even greater risks. "Negative, Athena. We maintain course. Open a general communication channel to the approaching vessels." "Channel open, Captain," reported the communications officer. Ellis stepped forward, her voice carrying the authority of her years of command. "Auraxian vessels. This is Captain Mara Ellis of the United Earth Council hospital ship Hope's Light. We are on a humanitarian mission to Kepler Station under the protection of interstellar medical neutrality laws. Please acknowledge and maintain safe distance." For several minutes, only static filled the bridge. Then a harsh voice responded in accented English. "Earth vessel, you are in violation of Auraxian territorial space. Halt your advance and prepare for inspection." Ellis felt her jaw tighten. Kepler Station sat in neutral space well outside any recognized Auraxian territory. This was an illegal intercept, but she had to consider the safety of her crew and patients. "Auraxian Commander, Kepler Station is in neutral space as recognized by all galactic treaties. We request safe passage to continue our medical mission." The response came swiftly and without room for negotiation. "You will halt immediately or be fired upon. This is your final warning." Dr. Takeda stepped closer to Ellis, his face pale. "Captain, surely they won't fire on a hospital ship. It would be a violation of every civilized norm." Before Ellis could respond, the ship's defensive systems screamed warnings across the bridge. Energy signatures spiked on sensors as the Auraxian vessels powered their weapon systems. "Incoming fire!" shouted Reyes, her hands flying over the helm controls. "Multiple plasma torpedoes inbound." Ellis felt time slow as the first impacts struck the Hope's Light. The massive hospital ship shuddered under the assault emergency lighting, casting eerie shadows across the bridge as main power fluctuated. Through the viewport, she could see the brilliant flashes of energy weapons tearing into her ship's hull. "All hands, this is the captain," Ellis's voice carried throughout the ship's communication system. "We are under attack. All medical personnel to emergency stations. Damage control teams respond immediately." The bridge filled with smoke as secondary explosions rocked the vessel. Ellis gripped her command chair as another barrage struck home, this time targeting the ship's medical bays. The irony wasn't lost on her. They were firing on the very areas marked with medical crosses, the internationally recognized symbols of neutrality and healing. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, reported the damage control officer, his voice barely audible over alarms. "Medical Bay 3 is completely destroyed. Casualty reports coming in now." Commander Zhao's voice cut through the chaos from the Athena. "Hope's Light, we're moving to engage the attacking vessels. Can you maintain position?" "Negative, Athena. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." Ellis's order surprised everyone on the bridge, but she knew that one destroyer against 3 heavy cruisers would only result in more deaths. "Focus on rescue operations." Dr. Takeda stumbled across the tilting bridge toward Ellis. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes burned with fury she had never seen from the pacifist physician. "Captain, they're targeting our medical facilities. Dozens of my staff are dead or injured. This is unconscionable." Ellis nodded grimly. Through her earpiece, she could hear the casualty reports mounting. Nurses, doctors, patients, all victims of an unprovoked attack on a vessel that existed solely to heal and help. The magnitude of the war crime being committed struck her like a physical blow. "Open an emergency transmission to Earth Command," she ordered. "Full tactical data and visual records of the attack." The communications officer worked frantically at a station. "Channel open, Captain. Full transmission is being sent." Ellis knew that the images now being broadcast across human space would trigger a response unlike anything seen since the Mars Rebellion. An attack on a hospital ship represented the worst kind of violation of civilized warfare, and Earth's population would demand justice. The final salvo from the Araxian vessels left the Hope's Light crippled and drifting. Emergency power kept life support functioning, but the great hospital ship's capacity to fulfill its mission was gone. As the attacking vessels withdrew, Ellis surveyed the damage to her command. "Final casualty report," she requested quietly. Dr. Takeda's voice was hollow as he consulted his tablet. 43 dead, including 17 medical personnel. 87 wounded. Medical facilities destroyed or severely damaged on 6 decks. Ellis closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of each lost life. These people had dedicated themselves to healing others, regardless of species or allegiance. Their murders demanded an answer. Lieutenant Reyes looked up from her station, tears streaming down her young face. "Captain, Earth Command is requesting immediate confirmation of the attack details. They're asking about our response recommendations." Ellis moved to the communication station herself. She knew that her next words would shape humanity's response to this atrocity. "Earth Command. This is Captain Ellis aboard the Hope's Light. We have been the victim of an unprovoked attack by vessels identifying themselves as Araxian. The attack deliberately targeted our medical facilities in clear violation of interstellar law. Request immediate response authorization." The reply from Earth came within minutes, carrying the authority of the United Earth Council itself. "Hope's Light. This is Admiral Sarah Morrison, UEC Fleet Command. We have received your transmission and visual evidence of the attack. The Council has authorized emergency mobilization of fleet elements. Designation Fury Fleet. You are ordered to maintain position and await reinforcement." Ellis felt a chill at the words Fury Fleet. It was a designation reserved for humanity's most overwhelming military responses, typically involving 50 or more warships equipped with the latest graviton cannon technology. Earth was preparing to answer the attack on the Hope's Light with a show of force that would resonate across the galaxy. Commander Zhao's image appeared on the bridge's main screen as he established a visual link from the Athena. His usual confidence was replaced by barely contained rage. "Captain, I've just received word from Fleet Command. They're assembling a battle group that will make the Araxians regret this day." "Commander, our first priority must be the rescue and evacuation of survivors," Ellis replied. "Military response comes second to saving lives." "With respect, Captain, this attack demands immediate retaliation. Every moment we delay allows those responsible to escape justice." Zhao's argument carried weight, but Ellis could see the danger in letting anger drive their decisions. Dr. Takeda, now wearing a bandage around his head, joined the conversation. Captain, I agree with your priorities, but I must also say that this attack cannot go unanswered. Those ships deliberately targeted medical personnel. It goes against everything civilized species hold sacred. Ellis looked at both men, seeing the conflict that was tearing at her own heart. As a former military officer, she understood the need for swift justice. As the captain of a hospital ship, her first duty was to the wounded and dying under her care. The two imperatives seemed to pull in different directions. We'll focus on rescue operations while we await the Fury fleet, she decided. Commander Zhao, coordinate with our damage control teams. Dr. Takeda established triage areas in undamaged sections of the ship. Over the following hours, as the Hope's Light's crew worked to save lives and repair critical systems, reports began filtering in from Earth about the public response to the attack. The visual transmission of Auraxian vessels firing on a clearly marked hospital ship had triggered outrage, unlike anything seen in decades. Protests filled the streets of every major Earth city, demanding swift and decisive action against those responsible. Ellis found herself in her ready room, staring at intelligence reports about the attackers. The vessels had been identified as belonging to the Crimson Hand faction, specifically the personal fleet of General Kale Arex. The fanatical leader had long preached about the need to cleanse human influence from Auraxian space. But this attack represented an escalation that surprised even intelligence analysts. A soft chime indicated someone requesting entry. Come in. Dr. Takeda entered, moving carefully due to his injuries. Captain, I wanted to discuss our medical supply situation. With the damage to our storage areas, we're critically short on several essential medications. Ellis gestured for him to sit. How critical? We can maintain current patient care for perhaps 48 hours. After that, people will start dying from treatable conditions. Dr. Takeda's voice carried the weight of professional experience. Captain, I need to ask you something and I want an honest answer. Go ahead. When the Fury fleet arrives, what's going to happen? Are we looking at a full-scale war with the Auraxian Empire? Ellis considered the question carefully. Doctor, the Crimson Hand is a faction, not the entire empire. From what intelligence tells us, General Arex acted without authorization from the Auraxian government. This could actually provide an opportunity to isolate the extremists. But at what cost? Dr. Takeda leaned forward in his chair. Captain, I've seen what happens when military force becomes the primary response to atrocity. The cycle of violence tends to consume everything in its path. Before Ellis could respond, Lieutenant Reyes's voice crackled through the comm system. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the incoming Fury fleet. Admiral Morrison wants to speak with you directly. Ellis made her way back to the bridge where the main screen showed the stern face of Admiral Sarah Morrison. The fleet commander's silver hair and weathered features spoke of decades spent in space, and her expression left no doubt about her intentions. Captain Ellis, I'm sorry for what happened to your ship and crew. The attack on the Hope's Light represents an act of war against the United Earth Council. Admiral, what are our orders? The Fury fleet consists of 52 vessels including 6 carriers and 8 heavy cruisers equipped with graviton cannons. We're prepared to respond with overwhelming force. Morrison paused her eyes, showing a hint of the conflict Ellis herself felt. However, the Council has also authorized an alternative approach if circumstances permit. Ellis felt a spark of hope. What kind of alternative? Precision strikes against Crimson Hand assets, only combined with rescue operations for any Auraxian civilians who might be caught in the crossfire. It's risky, and it requires split-second timing, but it might allow us to eliminate the threat without starting a larger war. Admiral, request permission to accompany the Fury fleet when it arrives. Morrison's eyebrows rose slightly. Captain, the Hope's Light is in no condition for combat operations. Not for combat, Admiral. For medical support. If we're going to risk civilian casualties, we need medical facilities standing by. Ellis felt her sense of purpose crystallizing. This attack happened because extremists believe humanity lacks the resolve to protect its principles. Let's show them they're wrong by maintaining our humanitarian mission even in the midst of retaliation. Admiral Morrison nodded slowly. Approved, Captain. The Fury fleet will arrive in 18 hours. Be ready. As the transmission ended, Ellis found herself facing the same moral dilemma that had defined her career. How could they balance the legitimate need for justice with their commitment to preserving life? The answer, she realized, lay not in choosing between the two principles, but in finding a way to honor both. Commander Zhou returned to the Hope's Light as the ship's crew worked frantically to restore essential systems. His meeting with Ellis in her ready room carried an air of urgency that matched the approaching arrival of the Fury fleet. Captain, I've been reviewing tactical assessments of the Crimson Hand strongholds. Zhao began spreading a holographic display between them. General Arex has consolidated his forces around Aurax Prime, the Auraxian home system. He's essentially seized control of the orbital defense platforms. Ellis studied the display, noting the positions of civilian habitats interspersed among military installations. How many non-combatants are we looking at? Conservative estimates suggest over 2 million Auraxian civilians in the orbital cities. Zhao's expression was grim. Captain, if we attack with full force, the collateral damage will be enormous. Then we don't attack with full force. Ellis's voice carried a certainty that surprised even her. Commander, what if we could neutralize the military threats while simultaneously protecting civilian lives? That would require incredibly precise coordination. We'd need to disable defensive systems, neutralize Crimson Hand vessels, and somehow extract civilians all at the same time. Zhao paused, studying the tactical display. It's possible, but it would be the most complex military operation in UEC history. Ellis leaned back in her chair, thinking about Dr. Takeda's earlier warnings about cycles of violence. What if complexity is exactly what we need? What if showing restraint in the face of this atrocity demonstrates more strength than simple destruction? Their conversation was interrupted by Lieutenant Reyes, announcing the arrival of the Fury fleet's advanced scouts. Ellis and Zhao hurried to the bridge where the main screen showed the most impressive display of military might either had ever witnessed. 52 vessels spread across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the advanced armor plating that made them nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. The flagship USS Justice dominated the center of the formation, its graviton cannons capable of tearing apart entire moons. Surrounding it, carriers launched squadrons of fighters, while destroyers and cruisers took up protective positions. Admiral Morrison's image appeared on screen again, this time with the bridge of the Justice visible behind her. Captain Ellis status report on the Hope's Light. Medical facilities restored to 60% capacity, Admiral. We're ready to support rescue operations. Excellent. I'm transmitting our operational plan now. Morrison's expression showed both determination and concern. Operation Righteous Fury will commence in 6 hours. We'll move on Aurax Prime with overwhelming force, but our primary targets are military installations only. Civilian protection is our highest priority after neutralizing the threat. Ellis reviewed the transmitted plan with growing admiration for its complexity. The Fury fleet would approach Aurax Prime from multiple vectors using graviton cannons to disable orbital defense platforms, while deploying medical evacuation pods to protect civilian areas. Specialized teams would board Crimson Hand vessels to capture rather than destroy them, providing evidence of the war crimes while minimizing casualties. Admiral, I'd like to request permission for the Hope's Light to accompany the assault force, Ellis said. Captain, that's incredibly dangerous. The Hope's Light isn't equipped for combat operations in a contested system. No, Admiral, but it's equipped for something the Fury fleet isn't. Ellis felt her conviction growing stronger. We're equipped to demonstrate that humanity's response to atrocity doesn't have to abandon our principles. If we attack while simultaneously providing medical aid to anyone who needs it, we send a message that resonates far beyond military victory. Dr. Takeda stepped forward, his injuries still evident, but his voice strong. "Admiral, I support Captain Ellis's request. The medical staff of the Hope's Light are volunteers, and we've voted unanimously to participate in the operation." Morrison considered for several moments before nodding. "Approved. The Hope's Light will accompany the Fury fleet as a medical support vessel. Captain Ellis, you'll coordinate rescue operations with Commander Zhao and the Athena." As the 6 hours until operation commencement ticked by, Ellis found herself moving through the corridors of her damaged ship, speaking with crew members and medical staff. Their faces showed a mixture of grief for fallen colleagues and determination to see justice done. In the medical bays, Dr. Takeda and his team prepared for the massive influx of casualties they expected from the upcoming battle. Lieutenant Reyes approached Ellis in the main corridor, her young face showing a maturity that hadn't been there before the attack. "Captain, I want you to know that every pilot on this ship volunteered for the rescue mission. We understand the risks." Ellis placed a hand on the young woman's shoulder. "Lieutenant, what happened to us can't be allowed to happen to others. That's why we're doing this." "I know, Captain, but I also want those responsible to pay for what they did to our people." Ellis nodded, understanding the conflict in her pilot's heart, because she felt it herself. "Justice and vengeance aren't the same thing, Nova. We're going to get justice." As the Fury fleet moved toward Orax Prime, Ellis stood on the bridge of the Hope's Light, watching the tactical displays that showed their approach to the enemy stronghold. The Oraxian home system was a marvel of engineering with dozens of orbital cities, connected by transport networks that had taken centuries to construct. It was also one of the most heavily defended systems in known space, bristling with weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets. General Kale Arex had turned those defenses against the very people they were meant to protect, using Oraxian civilians as human shields, while consolidating his power base. Intelligence reports indicated that the regular Oraxian government had been forced into hiding, unable to challenge the Crimson Hand's control of the orbital infrastructure. "All stations, this is Admiral Morrison," came the announcement across the fleet's communication channels. "Operation Righteous Fury commences in 60 seconds. Remember, we're here to neutralize a threat while protecting innocent lives. Every shot counts, every second matters." Ellis watched as the Fury fleet split into 3 attack groups, approaching Orax Prime from different angles to overwhelm the defenders. The USS Justice led the primary assault, its graviton cannons charging for the opening salvo against the orbital defense platforms. "Hope's Light, this is Justice. You're cleared to begin medical evacuation procedures as soon as we neutralize the primary threats." "Understood, Justice. Hope's Light standing by." The first shots of the battle lit up space like artificial stars as graviton cannons struck their targets with devastating precision. The orbital defense platforms designed to repel invasion fleets crumbled under the focused assault of humanity's most advanced weapons. But even as the military installations were destroyed, medical evacuation pods launched from the Hope's Light towards civilian habitats. Dr. Takeda coordinated the rescue operations from the ship's medical bay, his voice calm, despite the chaos around them. "Evacuation Pod 7, you have wounded Oraxians in Habitat Section 12. Priority medical status." Ellis found herself torn between watching the tactical display and the rescue operations. On one screen, she could see Commander Zhao leading a boarding party onto a Crimson Hand cruiser. On another, medical teams were treating Oraxian civilians who had been injured in the crossfire. The complexity of the operation was staggering. While fighters engaged enemy vessels in desperate combat, hospital ships moved through the battle zone evacuating wounded. While Marines captured extremist leaders, doctors treated their victims. It was warfare and humanitarianism conducted simultaneously, a demonstration of humanity's ability to fight for justice without abandoning mercy. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the captured Crimson Hand flagship," announced the communications officer. "Put it through!" The main screen, filled with the image of a tall, imposing Oraxian, wearing the distinctive red armor of the Crimson Hand. General Kale Arex's features were aristocratic, but hardened by fanaticism, his golden eyes burning with uncompromising hatred. "Human Captain, I am General Kale Arex of the Crimson Hand. Your unprovoked attack on Auraxian territory will be answered with the complete cleansing of human filth from our sacred space." Ellis stepped forward, her voice steady despite her anger. "General Arex, you attacked a hospital ship engaged in humanitarian operations. That action violated every principle of civilized warfare." Civilized. Arex's laugh was harsh and bitter. "You speak of civilization while your species spreads like a plague across the galaxy. The attack on your medical vessel was a necessary purification, the first step in reclaiming Auraxian purity." "You killed medical personnel and patients who posed no threat to anyone," Ellis replied. "How does murdering healers advance any cause?" "Your very presence is a threat to our way of life. Every human ship that enters our space carries the contamination of your inferior culture." Arex's fanaticism was evident in every word. "The Crimson Hand will continue our sacred mission until every human is driven back to your pathetic homeworld." Ellis felt her anger building, but she also recognized an opportunity. "General, you're broadcasting this conversation across the galaxy. Everyone can hear your justification for attacking a hospital ship." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Arex's features. He hadn't realized that his confession was being transmitted to every major news network in known space. Dr. Takeda stepped into view of the camera, his medical uniform and visible injuries making a powerful statement. "General Arex, I've treated thousands of patients of dozens of species, including Auraxians. Every life has value regardless of origin. Your actions today have dishonored everything your civilization once stood for." Ellis watched as Arex's fanatical certainty began to crumble under the weight of his own words. Across the galaxy, the transmission was being received by Auraxian citizens who were seeing their own people being rescued by the same humans their government had attacked. "Captain Ellis, this is Commander Zhao," came a voice from the boarding party. "We've secured the enemy flagship. General Arex is in custody." Ellis nodded to the communications officer to close the channel. Through the viewports, she could see that the battle was winding down. Crimson Hand vessels were surrendering or fleeing their support, among Auraxian civilians evaporating as word spread of humanity's restrained response. "Admiral Morrison to all vessels," came the announcement. "The primary military objective has been achieved. All units are to maintain rescue operations and provide medical assistance to any who need it, regardless of species or allegiance." Ellis felt a profound sense of completion as she watched medical teams from the Hope's Light working alongside their former enemies to treat the wounded. The battle had lasted only 3 hours, but its implications would resonate for generations. In the days that followed, as the Hope's Light established temporary medical facilities in orbit around Aurax Prime, Ellis had time to reflect on what they had accomplished. The Fury Fleet had demonstrated humanity's military capability while simultaneously showing its commitment to humanitarian principles. General Arex and his conspirators were in custody awaiting trial for war crimes, while the legitimate Auraxian government had been restored to power. Dr. Takeda approached her in the ship's medical bay, where human and Auraxian medical staff worked side by side to treat casualties from both sides of the conflict. "Captain, I want to thank you for supporting the rescue operations during the battle. Doctor, you were right about the importance of maintaining our principles. Military victory means nothing if we abandon our humanity to achieve it." "I've been thinking about what General Arex said during his transmission," Dr. Takeda continued. "His fanaticism was exposed for the galaxy to see, but it also revealed something important about the fear that drives such extremism." Ellis nodded thoughtfully. "Fear of cultural contamination, fear of change. It's the same mindset that drives extremism everywhere. But the response we demonstrated shows another way. We can be strong without being cruel, decisive without being merciless." Dr. Takeda gestured toward the medical bay, where former enemies worked together. "This is what real strength looks like." Commander Zhao joined them, his expression showing a mixture of satisfaction and contemplation. Captain, the preliminary casualty reports are in. Total deaths from the operation, 17 all military personnel. Civilian casualties, 0. Ellis felt a weight lift from her shoulders. And the Crimson Hand? Completely dismantled. Most of their leadership is in custody, and their remaining ships have been impounded. The Auraxian government has issued a formal apology for the attack on the Hope's Light. Lieutenant Reyes appeared at Ellis's elbow, her young face bright with something that hadn't been there since the attack. Hope. Captain, I just wanted to report that our rescue operations saved over 3,000 Auraxian civilians. Many of them specifically requested to thank the crew of the Hope's Light. Ellis looked around at her team, medical personnel and military officers, young and old, all united by their commitment to protecting life while defending justice. The attack on their ship had been intended to break their spirit, but instead, it had forged them into something stronger. Admiral Morrison's image appeared on the nearby communication screen. Captain Ellis, I wanted to personally commend you and your crew for your performance during Operation Righteous Fury. The integration of medical rescue operations with military action set a new standard for humanitarian intervention. Thank you, Admiral. What's the status of our mission to Kepler Station? The refugee crisis there has been resolved by other medical vessels, but the Council has a new assignment for the Hope's Light. Morrison's expression showed deep respect. We're establishing a permanent humanitarian fleet with the Hope's Light as its flagship. Your mission will be to respond to crises throughout known space, demonstrating that humanity stands for justice and mercy in equal measure. Ellis felt her heart swell with pride. We accept the assignment, Admiral. As the transmission ended, Ellis found herself back at the viewport where this journey had begun. The stars looked the same, but everything else had changed. The attack on the Hope's Light had tested humanity's commitment to its highest ideals, and they had emerged stronger for the trial. Dr. Takeda joined her at the viewport. Captain, there's something else you should know. The Auraxian government has proposed a new treaty, the Treaty of the Rift. It would establish protections for all humanitarian vessels and create joint response teams for medical emergencies. A treaty born from tragedy but dedicated to preventing future ones, Ellis mused. I think that's fitting. Commander Zhao approached with a data pad. Captain, we've received intelligence reports about other extremist cells operating in the shadow sectors of the galaxy. It appears our work is far from over. Ellis smiled, feeling a sense of purpose that went beyond any single mission. Then, we'd better get ready, Commander. The galaxy is a big place, and there are a lot of people who need our help. Lieutenant Reyes looked up from her navigation console. Captain, where are we heading next? Ellis looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, people were suffering who could be helped by a ship dedicated to healing and a crew committed to justice. Wherever we're needed most, Lieutenant. Wherever we're needed most. The Hope's Light began its turn away from Aurax Prime, its white hull gleaming in the starlight. Behind them, former enemies worked together to rebuild what fanaticism had nearly destroyed. Ahead lay the infinite possibilities of a galaxy where strength and compassion could coexist. The attack on a hospital ship had been meant to demonstrate humanity's weakness. Instead, it had revealed their greatest strength, the ability to answer violence with justice, hatred with healing, and despair with hope. The Fleet of Fury had delivered its message to the galaxy. Those who attacked the innocent would face overwhelming force, but they would also witness overwhelming mercy. As the great hospital ship disappeared into hyperspace, its mission of healing continued, carrying with it the promise that no life would be left behind, no matter how dark the void or distant the stars. The Treaty of the Rift would stand as testament to what had been accomplished, but the real monument to their victory was simpler and more profound: the knowledge that when tested, humanity had chosen to remain human.